Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Season 4 of Daily Kaylee. Tonight's episode is the first episode of our yearly 13 Days of Halloween series. This is the 4th annual 13 Days of Halloween. That is mind-boggling to me. It does not feel like I've been doing this for going on 4 years in a row now, but as always, I'm extremely grateful for all of you who come back and listen to this every year. This is my favorite part of Halloween. Today's episode is about the disappearance of Brandon Swanson. If you've never heard about this case, Brandon Swanson was a college student who went missing in Minnesota shortly after midnight on May 14th, 2008. Now, when you hear a college boy went missing after midnight, you probably think, okay, he got drunk at a party and never came home. That is almost true. But there is a lot more to Brandon's story than just not going home after a party. Brandon Swanson was born in Marshall, Minnesota on January 30th, 1989, to his parents Brian and Annette Swanson. In the fall of 2007, he enrolled in Minnesota West Community and Technical College, and he went to school at a nearby campus in Canby, Minnesota. The spring semester ended on May 13th, 2008, and Brandon stayed on campus an extra day because his friends were throwing end of the year parties. Obviously, that is not an uncommon thing. If you have ever been a college student or have ever seen a movie about college students, you know that's a thing. So, nothing out of the ordinary for Brandon to be staying on campus just one extra night. He wasn't doing anything crazy. He was going to one party. It was literally one extra night, and then he was heading home for the summer. When he left the party, like I said, shortly after midnight, he was on his way home when he drove his car into a ditch on accident, not on purpose. Now, he had a little bit to drink at this party, but according to eyewitnesses from the party, he did not appear to be incapable of driving. He seemed like he was coherent, he was responsive, he seemed normal. So, I'm not sure exactly how he drove his car into this ditch. That was not really discussed because that is not when he goes missing. When he gets his car stuck and realizes he's not going to be able to get it out by himself, he calls his parents and he tells them he's not really sure exactly where he is, but he needs help, he needs a ride home. He is using clues from his surroundings, and he thinks that he is near the town of Lind, Minnesota. They say, okay, we'll come pick you up. We'll bring you home. They stay on the phone with him the whole time. They're talking to him. However, they are not able to locate him. They follow his instructions. They drive to the town that he believes that he is heading towards. There is no sight of him. They remain on the phone with him for 47 minutes. Brandon is telling them that he thinks he sees lights ahead, and this is why he thinks that he is near the town of Lind. He says he's going to get out of the car and walk towards these lights. His parents told him, hey, we're pulling up, we're close to where you think you are, we're flashing our headlights, do you see us? He says, no, I see no one. They asked him to flash his lights to see if maybe they could see him in the distance anywhere. Nothing. He is not anywhere near his parents. Like I said, he gets out. He plans on walking into town. He tells his parents the name of a bar that is nearby in this town. He says, drive to this parking lot and wait for me. I'm walking. He says, it may take me a little bit, but I will meet you there. I know this is where I am. His parents say, okay, and they stay on the phone with him. Now, he believes that where he is not too far from this town. Like, he thinks he can walk there and be there within, like, maybe an hour. Like I said, he stays on the phone with his parents. 47 minutes into their phone call, it is shortly after 2:30 a.m., and his parents say that Brandon suddenly interrupted himself mid-sentence, and he said, "Oh shit." And that was it. He was silent for the rest of the call. His parents tried to call his attention back to the call, figure out if he dropped his phone. They then hang up and make multiple attempts to call him back, and he never answered. He has not been seen or heard from since he said, "Oh shit," and the phone went silent. After continuing to look for their son, at 6:30 a.m., his parents report Brandon missing to the Lind police. This is the town that Brandon thought he was walking towards. When they first try to make their report, they are told that it's not unusual for a college kid to stay out all night after they partied to celebrate the beginning of summer. Like, it's not unusual. They're making a huge deal of nothing, pretty much. Annette specifically said that one of the officers told her that it was Brandon's right to be missing. Like, he's a grown man. If he wants to just fuck off into nowhere, he's allowed to do that. As a mother, I'm sure that rubbed her the wrong way. But after persistence from Annette, later that same morning, the Lind police started a search for Brandon. However, they found no trace of him anywhere in the town or nearby outside of the town. They then brought in the help of the local county sheriff to help them to kind of broaden their horizons and get a larger radius on the search. They got his cell phone records, and this is when they found out he had been calling from a town by the name of Taunton, which is along State Highway 68. This is the main highway in and out of Canby, which is where his campus is. This town is about not too far away from his hometown of Marshall, Minnesota. It is directly northwest, so he wasn't far from home when he was at school. However, he was 25 miles away from the town of Lind, where he thought he was. They decided to search in this area since that is where his phone was pinged from whenever he was on the phone with his parents. They discovered his abandoned car. It was indeed in a ditch, and it was off of a gravel road. It was in the vicinity of Lincoln County, Minnesota, so they were able to bring in that sheriff's office as well to help broaden the investigation. Sheriff Sheriff Jack Vazeski, I hope I'm saying that properly, or Vazecki. He is over that sheriff's department, and he came to assist the search. While he was checking out the car, he told the media that his car, which was a Lumina, had gotten hung up at the top of an incline on the edge of the road. It wasn't enough to actually damage the car, but the wheels were not touching the ground on that side of the car, and there was no traction. He could not move this car by himself. There was nothing else wrong with the car. No one seemed to have messed with the car. No one seemed to have entered the car, nothing. It was abandoned just the way that it was supposed to be. However, because it was a gravel road, there were absolutely no tracks. There was no way to even tell what direction that Brandon may have started walking in. They were able to trace his cell phone through a nearby cell tower, and it was also along Highway 68. By May 15th, just a couple days later, the call had been determined to come from within 5 miles of this cell tower. And this cell tower was near Minneota, Minnesota, which is kind of confusing, but that is another town close by. Since they were able to determine a slightly more specific location, they started to search there. They said, okay, Brandon was obviously walking in this direction. Let's focus the search here. This 5-mile radius around the cell tower also included Yellow Medicine County in Minnesota. So that is even another sheriff's office that was able to assist with this search. It became part of their jurisdiction as well. Sheriff Dahl, which was the original county sheriff on the case, he noted that there was a grain elevator around this area with a huge red light on top. And he determined that maybe this is the light that Brandon saw to make him believe that the town of Lind was nearby. Because he made this observation, they came up with a sort of theorized path that Brandon had walked. And they searched along this. They brought in search dogs. They brought an aerial team to fly over the area. They brought in not only search dogs, but they brought in bloodhounds from South Dakota. And these bloodhounds picked up a 3-mile scent trail. This trail mainly followed the roads that passed by an abandoned farm in the west and the northwest part of the radius. These fields and this abandoned farm also followed the Yellow Medicine River. These bloodhounds traced the scent to a point where it appeared to enter the stream. His dad recalled that on the phone, Brandon had mentioned he was passing fences and he could hear water running while he was on his walk. One of these theories was that Brandon had entered the stream and drowned. However, they brought boats in from the Department of Natural Resources. They put up gates in the river to block off the stream. They never found a body. To this day, they have not found a body in the river. So, I think it's safe to say he did not drown. And if he drowned, someone obviously pulled his body out, which is very unlikely. However, they continued to search the river. They searched the river banks, any nearby, off the river, little gravel areas they could search. After this, they kind of gave up. After the original search, there was nothing to go off of. There were not even breadcrumbs to follow. I mean, there were no straws to grasp at. There was nothing. Most of these efforts were completely discontinued. They let the case go cold. Sheriff Vizecki, for the next 30 days, he continued to walk the entire 2 miles of the Yellow Medicine River in this area. Every day for 30 days. Nothing came up. There wasn't a shoe found. There wasn't a footprint. Nothing. Annette and Brandon Swanson decided to leave their porch light on all night, every single night, as a symbol of their hope that Brandon would return home. To this day, they still leave their porch light on. After the summer was over, all the fields had been planted and the crops were harvested. In the fall, they restarted the search. Nothing came of it. After the snow melted over the winter and spring came again, they searched again. Nothing came of it. They had a tip line set up in 2010. By 2015, 90 different leads had been reported, and all of them were followed to nothing. The only theory, the only viable theory that anyone has been able to come up with these past 15 years is that Brandon got drunk at the party, got in the river, or maybe fell in the river on his walk and drowned because he was too intoxicated to save himself. I do not believe this is what happened to Brandon. Specifically because not only did all of the eyewitnesses from the party, of course, some of them were drunk, they can't be 100% credible, but they did say that he did not seem intoxicated. He seemed perfectly capable of driving himself home. But more so to disprove this theory for me is that he was on the phone with his parents for 47 minutes. His parents, who had known him his entire life, know him better than anyone else. And they both 100% say that he was not intoxicated. He seemed to be his normal self. He had all of his wits about him. He was holding up the conversation. He was talking normal. There was nothing to make them believe that he was intoxicated to the point of drowning in a river without being able to stand up and save himself. He said that he was not his father said he was not disoriented. He was not confused. Like, he was normal, just like I said. If by some chance Brandon is still alive, there are multiple other possibilities that could have happened to him. The most popular is that he intentionally disappeared. He did not want anyone to find him. His parents do not believe that that is something that he would have done. And personally, I don't know if I believe that theory either, because although it is the most likely compared to the drowning scenario, I don't understand why he would call his parents if he wanted to disappear. Sheriff Vizecki said specifically that they cannot rule out foul play. There was no evidence to suggest foul play, but there was also no other evidence to suggest against it. The leading theory with that is that someone was waiting in the shadows and they got the drop on him, basically. Maybe that's why he said, oh shit, maybe he dropped his phone and his parents couldn't hear him struggle. Either way, I think that is the most likely theory that I believe. Even though Brandon has still not been found, he has not been seen or heard from since. Brandon's law was implemented in Minnesota, and this is a state law that requires missing adults to be searched for immediately. That in Minnesota specifically, you do not have to wait 24 hours to report an adult missing if you have reasonable suspicion to believe that they are missing. Personally, I think this should be implemented nationwide. I feel like this could save so many lives and we would not have nearly as many cold cases. But maybe that's just me. That is the end of today's episode. I am excited for the ones to come, and I can't believe that here we are, 1 year later, we are kicking off my 4th annual 13 Days of Halloween. I love you guys so much. Let me know what you think of this episode, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye, guys.